Live. And tonight, we're going to spend some time on the 2024 election, which we really haven't spent much time on. I don't think, or at least doesn't feel that way, as had so many other things leading up to it. But first, I want to show you this. First, I want to show you this cartoon. I don't know if you like cartoons, but I do. Let me show it to you here. Do we all see that? Ted?
Yep. Bring it out towards you. No, bring it towards you.
Toward me more?
Yeah, even more. You can even have it up to your, yeah. Bring it up a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
All right. So we have the reporter saying, "What about Durham report, Mr. President?" And we have Biden saying, "Old news. 51 intel officials say so." Sounds like something Biden would say, huh? Or shush up. Well, they tell somebody to shut up during the recent very distinguished meeting of world leaders, where he made as usual, an ass out of himself. Well, the election of 2024 is almost as if it's upon us, right? Seems like we've been having it for quite some time. And let's look at where it stands right now. So we have on the Republican side, of course, we have Donald Trump out front now by margins that vary from 20 to 35. His number two opponent is Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, who had pretty much either been ahead of him or tied with him in the earlier part of this, but now has fallen, you'd have to say, very far behind. And then you have a group of others, which includes the one who joined today, Senator Scott, an impressive candidate, and many of them are impressive candidates. It still remains true that from the Trump perspective, the more the merrier, because particularly now that he's solidified well over half of the Republican base, they are going to have to divide what's out there that's anti-Trump or questioning Trump. So I guess if you assumed that everybody out there was that was anti-Trump, and if they all left, DeSantis would get their vote, then DeSantis would be somewhere around 40 to, at best, 45%, and Trump would be around 55%. It's unlikely that DeSantis would get every one of those votes. Some of them would stay home. Some of them would probably go to Trump over time. And I would think 60-40 would be a better way to look at it. But it's not going to happen that way, because these people are not going to just all drop out. And if they do drop out, I wonder if they're going to drop out in favor of DeSantis. I really doubt it. I would say Tim Scott, Vivek Ramaswamy, they seem to be running campaigns more against DeSantis. Even Governor Haley seems like she's more pointed at DeSantis. Now, why is that? Well, you can't get to number one until you overcome number two. So it looks to me like and they've got other things to think about, right? They've got to think about the fact that among better than half the Republican electorate, Donald Trump is beloved, as he's hated by the left-wingers and the communists and the Democrat radicals. But that group is at least 55, and when he is attacked, that group can go up and up and up, as we've seen with the Bragg situation, with the 25-year-old lawsuit, and a lot of it is not only that he's attacked, but the types of attacks are are very strange and look more like harassment than legitimate attacks. For example, the Bragg case is absurd. It's stupid. It's a case that never would have been brought against anyone else. There are 10 reasons why it's a stupid case. And I don't think anyone that really defends it. With all the serious things going on, to have this concern about a 6 or 7-year-old case, which he denies and she affirms, I guess. But, they made a deal and she took the money and it was a consensual everything all the way through. Both of them actually that are on the table are consensual situations. So what a, I know, statute of limitations really is gone. And not only that, the one who somehow won that case can't even say the day or the year. So how do you defend yourself against it? And this patently absurd set of facts that he raped her in a major department store where easily he could have been detected at any time because a celebrity like him, people are all over him when he's in a department store. But in any event, I think those very odd cases, including the two that are pending, which when you hear about them will be equally odd, I think this has been maybe his great asset. I mean, the Democrats should really feel kind of frustrated because they probably separated him from the field. And if they continue to do it, it's going to be just a runaway. So the Republicans that are joining now, they're not unrealistic. I don't know that they think they can catch him, but what they're looking for is second place. DeSantis is looking for first place, but they are looking for second place. At this point, Trump leads in every poll imaginable, and with the 7 or 8 people in the race, he's got a very, very sizable lead. And I'd say the people joining now are running for second place, or they're running on the possibility that something goes wrong and Trump is not the candidate. I think they're not convinced that DeSantis could hold the nomination in that case. He has been a somewhat disappointing candidate. He started off with a big lead, not a big lead. He started off with a surprising lead and has lost it. And he doesn't seem to be on any kind of roll to get it back. And the Disney thing is also holding him up quite a bit because it rubs against the Republican notion of government not interfering and dictating to business, no matter whether you like or not like the business, something that the pandemic made very apparent among dictatorial Democrat governors. And that may be very well hurting him. I think the attack on his wife by Politico just tells you everything you need to know about Politico, not about his wife. I've only met her twice. Seems like a very fine woman to me. And not only that, it's completely irrelevant and disgusting to go after somebody's wife, even though, I mean, let's add to it that she's a cancer survivor, but even without that, it would be absurd. And the thing, and everything they go after her on is like, God, it's like something it should be on The View. And that kind of cheap, disgusting, silly, petty little garbage. And, in a strange way, that might help him.
I was going to say, Mayor, if anything, that's going to curry favor.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Republican base, it seems the more you're attacked, the more they like you because they know how unfair it is. You wonder, well, that's a strange phenomenon. Why would Trump go up if he's attacked? Why would DeSantis go up if he's attacked? Because they know the attacks are unfair and some of them illegal. And there is one poll that's nice for DeSantis, and that's in Georgia. DeSantis, in the public opinion strategies poll, leads Biden in Georgia 45-42, whereas Trump loses, but actually it's tie. It's 44-43 to Biden in Georgia. And Georgia is a state in which, things have been rocky for President Trump, given the whole situation with the election and that sort of thing. And I guess the Disney thing, they're both digging in, Disney and DeSantis. So it's hard to know. It's hard to know how that's going to cut. It's hard to know how that's going to cut. DeSantis is as yet really not able to set forth a positive really agenda. His agenda is Trump can't win. Well, that's a little silly because in many of the polls, Trump is beating Biden by more than DeSantis. And in some where they're losing to Biden, it's within the margin of error for Trump, and DeSantis is getting beaten. And there are very few polls that I see, except that Georgia one, that's only one state, in which DeSantis does better against Biden than Trump does. Now, that used to be the case, but he better look at the current polls, or otherwise he's running the campaign on an issue where every day he looks like he's just plain wrong. Now, here was a good article in the Wall Street Journal, who's 100% on his side, about his legislative record. I'd run on that. I mean, he did get a number of good things done. I'd be careful trying to sort of suggest that he's the only one that made Florida what it is.
Mayor, how long have you been a part-time resident of Florida?
10. I'm going to say 10 years.
10 years, but you've been going down there for many more.
Yeah, about 20.
20.
No, yeah, about 20. Yeah, about 20.
How would you say? How has it been for those 20 years? Would you say there was a market difference pre-DeSantis and post-DeSantis? Remove COVID. Obviously, remove COVID from the picture.
Well, you can't really, because he did handle that really well. I would say I feel an improvement, but I felt an improvement under Scott, and I wasn't in Florida long enough or enough to measure Bush. But Bush did make a lot of great changes in Florida. I mean, he's the one who straightened out the education system. He straightened out the policing. He set up their emergency management system. Do you ever wonder why Florida does so well on all the hurricanes and other states flounder?
They do great
because Jeb Bush put in a very, very good emergency management system, which, to the credit of even Charlie Crist, who governed as a Republican, Charlie Crist and Rick Scott and Ron have taken advantage of and built on. It's a little like myself and Bloomberg, except it's a multi. I mean, it's not a place in which being a Republican is like I guess being an endangered species or something. And like in New York, remember, New York City did not vote for Lincoln, so you can get an idea of how tough it is to be a Republican. Their Republicans have governed really in the last since 2000, since 1998. Bush won the first time in 1998.
Wow.
So Bush was a reform governor and a good one. Charlie Crist turned out to be a terrible scoundrel, but he wasn't a bad governor. He wasn't a good governor either. He did up the spending. He did put in place a couple of, strange agencies and rules, but they were quickly done away with by Rick Scott, who was a remarkably good governor. One of the best in America.
Why did Crist leave the party? Or is there any one answer?
Yeah, he ran for the Senate, and Rubio beat him. The party kicked him out. Rubio kicked his backside.
And then of course Marco Rubio.
And I endorsed Rubio
for Senate.
I was the number 2 person who endorsed Rubio.
Wow.
Jeb Bush was the first, and with Jeb Bush's connivance, I was the second.
Wow. And that's like, of course, Marco, right? He was at one point thought of as a potential presidential contender.
Last in 2016. I mean, this is shaping up like 2016, but it's a little different. I mean, Trump goes in now the favorite, as opposed to, my God, he can't win. Also, Senator Bill Cassidy, who has become more and more of a rhino,
big time,
now has endorsed. He's the first, I guess, senator that I know of, at least, to endorse DeSantis, but it's more like Don can't win. That's the headline.
We've heard that before.
But of course, I don't know what the New York Post, who puts that as a headline, I don't know what the New York Post, here it is, right here. Yeah. Don can't win. I don't know what the New York Post does about the fact that he is winning in most of the polls against Biden, and DeSantis is either behind him or not winning. But look, let's face it. Nobody says you have to be consistent or correct in politics. So the choking case, the so-called choking case in New York, is really getting to be absurd. The family of the victim, Mr. Neely, had a funeral for him on Saturday, and may he rest in peace. And I pray for his soul. I certainly do. And God is going to judge him, not me. But I don't know. I don't think it did much good to have Al Sharpton as the person giving the sermon and the eulogy. What did they think Al Sharpton was going to do? Well, he made a racial issue out of it. And there's nothing really to suggest that this is racial. The guy came on, and I know the family wants to avoid this, like he was beaten or he was grabbed for no reason. They want to make it as if Sergeant Penny, the Marine sergeant, retired, jumped him for no reason and just choked him for the hell of it. Well, of course, that isn't the reason at all. The facts are pretty well established without doubt. He came on the train in another car, I believe, originally, began menacing the passengers, yelling at them, screaming at them, throwing garbage at them. And then when he got near Mr. Penny, he started saying things like, he would go to jail, or he didn't mind if he died. And then, and I think the act that caused Mr. Penny to react and makes what he did perfectly reasonable. Penny took off his jacket in a menacing way, ripped his jacket off, and threw it the way you do before you get into a fight. And listening to the man and watching him and watching the passengers, who I think will testify that they were frightened for their lives and thought he was going to kill somebody, it makes what Mr. Penny did all the more reasonable. Not only reasonable, but heroic. He could have been killed doing that. Who knows if this guy didn't have a knife or a gun? And even a Marine, is going to succumb to a gun. And the other point that I think makes it even more poignant is that other people helped him. So they must have shared the same concern that he shared. Now, the family that has brought in Sharpton, which is strike one, is now asking that those other two Good Samaritans be prosecuted. Now, they didn't do anything but hold his legs down and stop him from wiggling and pushing around, which may have been the thing that caused his death, by the way. Plus, we don't know the toxicology, do we? Well, it's there. It's there in the report. I wonder why that isn't being released. I wonder why we can't find out what the man had in his system. I mean, we now have all these studies that show that the persistent use of marijuana can not only help to create schizophrenia, but it can make it much worse if you have it. I think that's true of other drugs as well. And he certainly was acting. He was acting like a very violent man who was going to do what he did 40 to 45 other times. Smash people in the mouth, kick them, beat them, kidnap them, try to throw them on the tracks. In fact, he tried to throw somebody on the tracks the day before. This is absurd, this case. This is as ridiculous as Bragg's prosecution of Trump, as ridiculous as Bragg arresting Mr. Alba, who was acting in total self-defense and trying to prosecute him for first or second-degree murder. This is an example of what Soros has done to us, because Bragg would not be the prosecutor in New York if Soros hadn't put a couple $1 million into the campaign. So he wants to do to New York what he's done to St. Louis, where his prosecutor achieved, like all of them do, record murders while she's been there. Same thing in St. Louis with probably his worst one, Krasner, who has two or 3 years of massive murders and 1 year of records of murders in Philadelphia and crime going through the roof. His prosecutors have pretty much ruined Los Angeles and San Francisco. Chicago, I think, has the per capita largest murder rate in the country. I guess that prosecutor just, did she step down? No, the one in St. Louis stepped down, I think.
That's right.
And then they're all over the place. In my state, for example, the last 2 years, the most dangerous city per capita was Rochester, New York. Soros DA.
That's right.
And also Rochester set a record, that smaller town, but set a record for murder. Thank you, Mr. Soros. Crazy. Now they want to stop people from defending themselves. I mean, how much of a deterrent is this to people stepping in if they're going to? And let's assume that Mr. Penny at some point gets cleared, the way I got cleared after two years of terrible articles and ruining my law practice and getting suspended from the bar, all this other stuff. And then I get a letter to the grand jury saying he didn't commit any crimes. Thanks. Well, I mean, thanks. I'm glad they did that. I don't want them to prosecute me for the crimes, but it'd been a lot better if they didn't rip apart my apartment and rip apart my law office. And, I did have other law clients other than Donald Trump, all of whom had to feel pretty well invaded. Oh, not only that, they didn't just go after that. They went after my iCloud and took everything in my iCloud without telling me. And they very interestingly, and I think quite clearly, you can see the reason. They took it they took my iCloud from the day that I began representing Donald Trump, and they pretty much stopped looking at it the day after. And that was about 3.5, 4 years. So they were spying on Donald Trump. They're trying to invade his attorney-client privilege. What kind of non-Americans do that? I mean, who does that? Fascists do that. Fascists. So what's going on now at the border? Article 8, which has replaced Article 42, now seems to be kind of working itself out. I just want to see the numbers here. So the numbers are less that have been let in, about 12,000 or so. And then there was a day or two where the numbers were really down, but now they're beginning to pick up because people haven't figured out yet what to do under this new law. Let me see if I can simply describe it to you. I have a chart here somewhere about it, but gosh, it really is quite complicated. If you want to get asylum, you cannot ask for it in the United States. Well, not quite. There's a little caveat to that too. But basically what you have to do is you have to go to a center in Mexico or other countries once they get them set up. And you have to apply for asylum before you come into the United States. Should you come into the United States without applying for asylum and then apply for asylum, there will be a rebuttable presumption that you're not entitled to it. Now, what does a rebuttable presumption mean? It means it can be rebutted. And then if you give them evidence, what standard are they going to use? And are they going to bend over backwards to let people in, even though the law set up this? And the answer is, of course, they're already doing it, just like they lie about everything else. So this Article 8 is ultimately going to produce even more people than the 405 million of record that he let in, a record possessed by no other president. In fact, things were under fairly decent control under Trump, particularly with doing this outside of Mexico and not letting them in. And there's nothing being done to stop the Mexican cartels from running. The Mexican cartels are running the show. Let's face it. We don't vet them. People who come in, we have enough to do in just setting up asylum hearings for them and then letting them out. You know, what do they call it? Catch and release, and then tell them to come back 5 years from now. You know how stupid that is. So we registered about 5 million that we let in, and how many were gotaways? 2 million more, 3. So we got about 7 to 8 million illegals running around this country. Not all these wonderful people who are just looking for a better place to live, particularly not all, since they were vetted by the cartels, and you can be sure the cartels got a much larger proportion of criminals in than would normally be the case for their own purposes, and they got a lot of contracts to fulfill. First of all, they got the multi-billion-dollar one on fentanyl, which they have with China. So you look at the fentanyl records, which, like the illegal immigration records, are a disgrace on the record of Joe Biden. We've had more fentanyl deaths and overdose deaths than ever before under Joe Biden. See the records he sets? Sets records for getting people killed. Right, like he got people killed in Afghanistan due to his incompetence or lack of patriotism or being compromised by China, or all of the above. So Adams is a strange bird, I'll tell you. Adams is now in a big fight with Biden, and he warned his party that if they don't get control of immigration, it's gonna be disaster for them at the polls, and it's gonna be a disaster for Biden. He's taken in about 70,000 asylum seekers, and he says the cost is going to be about 4.3 billion by next spring. Now, here's the catch to it that you may not know: he invited them in. Adams, until a few months ago, was the biggest cheerleader for illegal immigration. He promised all kinds of things to the people that come, including lodging, health insurance, welfare, even higher education. And he said New York would be very welcoming. He backed up Biden's request that they surge to the border and come in. And he made New York an outlier in the sense that there were other sanctuary cities, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Philadelphia. Don't remember any mayor going out of the way to sort of say, come here, pick me. Well, he's the one who did that. And now our city is a disaster, 70,000. He got 70,000 with that silly sanctuary. And for a cop to embrace sanctuary city in the form in which it exists, which is not to cooperate with immigration or whatever, is really disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. But he's now in a situation where he claimed that half the hotels in New York were filled with migrants. And at least one of the reporters for the Post, Nicole Galinas, who checked it out, said it's more like 5%. So maybe he's a little bit of a hysteric. I don't know. But he is creating hysteria on the other end of it, that the city will not be able to handle this with this 4.2 billion. And California is estimates it spent an additional 1.2 billion. Massachusetts is up 45% in terms of illegals. Chicago's shelter system is overwhelmed, and New York's shelter system is virtually gone. I mean, it doesn't exist anymore, and they're putting people into they were putting them into schools for a while. I think there may still be a few left. Now they're going to give them And now you got to really watch very, very carefully as the money starts flying around. You've got to really, really watch because going back to the Model Cities administration under Lyndon Johnson to other things, whenever these humane programs take place within the Democrat Party in big cities, a lot of crooks. When money starts flowing, the hands come out. I know this as a matter of my life and profession. So the one for the Hotel Roosevelt, which was a very fine hotel, it was the headquarters, strangely, of the Republican Party, of Tom Dewey. And when I won and lost, and the first time that I ran, that's where I had my events. But in any event, it's a fine hotel. It's on hard time, a little bit on hard times, but it was about to be sold. So now they're going to lease it out, and they're going to pay whoever is doing this. They can pay them $225 million for 3 years and 1,000 rooms. Then there are other things that may or may not be included in that. If this runs the usual New York City corrupt routine, there'll be kickbacks here, big kickbacks, like the guy that was a good friend and contributor to Adams, who made himself a multimillionaire running homeless shelters, because when he got the money for the homeless shelter and he had to pick subcontractors, I think he took a salary of $1 million, which shouldn't be allowed, but he did. But then he had to have security. So his brother started a security company, and he was the hidden main stockholder, and he paid them millions of dollars. And then they had to have catering, and his sister set up a catering thing, and they were doing that. And then they had to have transportation. They set up a transport. So the guy has made millions and millions and millions from New York City. He was making it with de Blasio, making it with Adams. And then, one of the things that happened is they did an analysis of some of his places, and they were among the worst in the city. I think there were insects in the food and rats in the kitchen, and it was horrid. So it's going to be the same people that are going to run this. I mean, they've been in the business of smearing city personnel for years. That's how the system works. That's why. All you got to do is reflect on how much money the Democrats have spent on these poor neighborhoods, and the poor neighborhoods never change, to realize the money doesn't go to the people. It's all like Haiti and the Clintons. The Clintons don't want to go to Haiti. Haiti got all these millions. All the millions went to Clinton.
Where did that money? Remember that?
All the money went to Clinton contractors who did nothing, who never did projects. The projects they did were terrible.
Haiti,
yeah.
That was Haitian big deal.
So
billions of dollars.
I'll tell you what, we drive in Ubers and
a lot,
and Lyfts a lot. So and we have a certain number of Haitian drivers. A lot of them become drivers.
Oh yeah.
Just say Bill Clinton, see what happens.
That's right, Mayor.
They'll go crazy.
That's right, and They'll learned that
they hate Bill Clinton. They hate Bill Clinton.
That is quite something.
The point that I wanted to make about 2024 is that, and this is very, very concerning for DeSantis. Right now on the Democratic side, it looks like Robert Kennedy Jr. has a larger percentage of the Democratic vote against Biden than DeSantis has of the Republican vote against Trump. And he's got a pretty darn powerful theme, which DeSantis doesn't have. DeSantis's theme is, I'm not Trump, and Trump can't win. Except that's slowly, quickly becoming stupid because of Trump's standing in the polls.
The polling suggests otherwise.
Yeah. And then I think, there's also, I don't think that Robert Kennedy Jr. would pay a terrible price in making the case against Biden, particularly if it is done personally. I mean, there's no doubt he's not compos mentis, and if he sort of suggested that, I don't see that they'd hate him in the Democratic Party forever. make the case against Trump, and you may not be able to ever run again in the Republican Party, particularly if it's seen as if you're helping Biden. And at this point, with the numbers where they are, and the way he's running the campaign, which is attacking Trump, he's getting very, very close to creating a very negative situation that
For himself.
For himself,
Almost
and also for the party. I mean, he's helping by going after Trump. He's helping Biden. And the last thing in the world that any Republican wants, and I think we're all united in, is for Biden to get reelected or his cadre of communists to take this any further. I mean, think about the children and their lives, and I mean, this is very, very hard to understand, isn't it? Very, very hard to understand. Just exactly what is going on. Very hard to take this. I would like people to. I'm going to take a break now, so we can let you listen to Kirk, our friend Kirk Elliott, who is going to talk to you about silver and gold and looking at the possibility of diversifying your portfolio so that, given the inflation situation that's going on and other things, that you're safe. And I think this is very, very sound advice. I certainly would go and get the booklet for free and then decide what you want to do and decide if these are the people you want to do it with. But which I heartily recommend, but in any event, you make that decision. But I'd hate to see you not reflect on it a bit, particularly if you have an IRA or a 401k, which can be switched over in a day without any cost to you. And you could switch over a quarter of it or half of it so that you're got a hedge and you're protected. So let's listen to that. Let's listen to Kirk, and then we'll be right back. Faith and family, freedom and finance are four things that we would do anything to protect. I trust the team at Kirk Elliott, PhD, Private Advisors, with providing the advice and sound strategies to take advantage of the inflationary pressures, the high interest rates, and the international challenges we face today. The Kirk Elliott team, with over 29 years of experience, shares our values and believes in people over profit. They can help you protect your finances from the big government policies that are out of our control. So what's in our control? The decision to act or not to act is within our control. I encourage you to act. Call Kirk Elliott, PhD, Private Advisors today. Start working with a team that will help you protect your retirement assets with gold and silver while sharing your desire to protect your faith, family, and freedom. Call them today, 720-605-3900. That's 720-605-3900, and tell them Rudy sent you. Or simply fill out a request for a free consultation at kirkelliottphd.com/Rudy. Okay, so now let's listen. Let's listen. Let's listen to Adams complaining.
You said that the president and the White House have failed New York City and that you don't have access to federal dollars to deal with the migrant crisis. But the administration reportedly has pledged $30 million to deal with those arrivals. Why the discrepancy?
I don't think that's a discrepancy. We've spent over $1 billion. We're projected to spend close to $4.3 billion, if not more. These estimate was based on a number of migrants coming to the city, and those numbers have clearly increased. We received in several days last week alone over 900 migrants on days. A week 2 weeks ago, approximately 4,200 in 1 week. When you look at the price tag, $30 million comes nowhere near what this city is paying for a national property.
So you are getting federal help. It's just not sufficient to the needs you have.
Well, we've been extremely transparent what the needs are. When a city that just cycled out of the financial crisis of COVID is now hit with an additional over $1 billion in our budget and potentially over $4 billion in the out years, that is not the price tag that is attached to what is cost to handle this national problem.
Well, I mean, the people of New York voted overwhelmingly for Joe Biden, and they got what they voted for. That's what my predecessor, Ed Koch, would have said when they complained to him about David Dinkins, who was selected over him. He said, "You got what you voted for. Live with it." But Ed was, I think, being funny when he said that. Who knows? Maybe he wasn't. But in any event, do you learn your lesson? Do you learn your lesson that this man is a disaster and his political party is also a disaster? Remember, Adams is complaining, but Adams invited them to New York. New York was sanctuary city par excellence, sanctuary city on steroids, the sanctuary city. All done by Adams. Now he's the biggest complainer in the country, and his case for help is clearly hurt by his prior position. I mean, it really is ridiculous that he can complain like this. Okay. Now I want you to listen to how Sharpton introduces race into the Neely case. Never changes, this man. Helped to cause the pogrom in Crown Heights.
There was no weapons. Nobody was threatened. And you grab them and put them in a chokehold.
First lie. Nobody was threatened. Every person interviewed on that train says they felt threatened. So that's the first lie by the make-believe minister. I'd like to know what seminary he went to. I'd like to know who ordained him. And I'd like to know what church he ever had. I'm going to give you the answer to that. He's never had a church. I seriously doubt that anybody ordained him anything. And he certainly didn't go to the seminary. So it may be that he's as much of a reverend as you are.
Two people hold him down. And you go to the precinct and he lets you go. If Jordan was impersonating Elvis Presley, if Jordan had been a different race and they had him impersonating Elvis, and a black guy put Elvis impersonating in a chokehold, and two black guys held him down, they would not have let that black guy leave the precinct that night.
Want to bet? Ah! That's what Bragg does every night, liar. Why do you think there's so much crime in New York? He dropped 52% of the felony cases to misdemeanors or let them out. A large percentage of those people were black people attacking white people. It's just the opposite of what he's saying. Sure, there's racism, but it pretty much works in the other direction right now. I mean, what a liar. And then an impersonator of Jackson. That was about like 8 years ago and 44 arrests before. This guy wasn't going around doing Michael Jackson. He was going around yelling and threatening people who have testified and said they were in fear of their life from him. What kind of a minister gets up in a eulogy and lies like that? One who does it for money. a con man. That's the kind of person. That's the kind of person who does it.
Well, Mayor, our phone lines are ringing off the hook.
All right, let's go.
How about we get one of our calls on here? And our first call, we're going to go to a friend of ours, Jeep Girl. She is one of our moderators. And Jeep Girl is coming to us from, our phone lines are ringing off the hook. We're going to go to Jeep Girl, who is coming to us from Colorado.
Hello.
So, Jeep Girl, can you hear us? You're
Hi,
on with the mayor.
Rudy.
How are you?
Are you picking it up okay?
I hear you just fine. Yeah, it's quite. In fact, you could put it down a little in my earphones, but I can hear you fine. Yeah. Okay, good.
Okay. Well, I just had a question. I kind of heard online, which that leaves a lot of question there, but I heard that Dominion was going to go out of business. Have you heard anything about that? And if they do, what happens?
They're gonna go out of business very rich. You know,
they've gotten sued, haven't they?
Yeah, but they got
Fox News just gave them the house.
Yeah, I mean, the company is worth, I mean, anywhere from about, it used to be worth about 60 million to 100 million. They got over $700 million in damages. That never happened. I mean, they got about 7 times the worth of the company. They never would have gotten that if they sold the company. So when you,
well, I just wondered what that was about, because I mean, it just seemed like, you know, everybody's talking about, oh boy, you know, Dominion and the election, and oh, we're going to go through that again, and all that. And then I read that thing where it said about that they were going out of business, and I thought, well, wait,
that'd be
what's
very
happening? And
interesting.
then
I'm going to have to look into that because I did not know that, but it would make a lot of sense. I mean, why not? I mean, they're all become multi millionaires.
Yeah.
And why stay in a business in which they're going to be scrutinized very carefully, right?
Oh, they're really going to be watched this time. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, they're probably going to sell it to somebody, and among other things, you got to watch those machines. It's not just them. So
yeah,
whoever they sell it to, somebody's got to take a good look at if you don't want to repeat. If you don't want a repeat of what happened last time, which I think is going to happen, because if you look at the way the Durham report worked, those people were found guilty of, or should have been found guilty of, trying to remove a lawfully elected president based on false information, and then ultimately of trying to fix the election by holding back the hard drive. Nothing happened to them, so there's no reason why they won't do it again. When nobody gets punished for something, there's a real encouragement among criminals to just do it again.
Yeah.
And
I just wonder,
Jeep Girl, before you hop off, we wanted to
thank you.
We want to thank you. You've been with us from the start, and Mayor, Jeep Girl's been moderating our YouTube chats from day one.
Wow, thank you very, very much. Stick with us. We got a long way to go to 2024. We want to get to we want to get to as many people as possible, and you should know that we're growing every day. I mean, we're basically over the 200,000 mark now, and sometimes we get up to 300, and we started off with 8,000. So it's really been in less than a year, it's been quite an increase.
That's right, Mayor. And now let's go to Jennifer calling in from Florida.
Jennifer, my dear.
Oh, hello.
Yes, Jennifer.
Yes, I want to talk to you about the border.
Okay.
You know, the border towns are getting overwhelmed with the influx of illegal and legal immigration, and places like New York City is getting overwhelmed.
Right.
What is going to be too much for the United States to where it's going to be too much to where we start losing our identity, and we'll just be just an extension of Central America instead of the United States of America?
That is exactly their goal. you have hit on exactly why they're doing what they're doing. A part of it is to get votes for the Democrat Party, but part of it is the Marxist injunction, the Marxist advice that the way to take over a country is to destroy it. I mean, destroy its identity. That's the reason why we have the burning of the flag and the kneeling for the national anthem and all the attacks on every founder of the U.S., take their names down because they had something to do with slavery. When in fact, if they're going to take a name down, they should take down the name of their party, Democrat Party, which had more to do with slavery than anything. So you can see what a phony thing that is. But the reality is that's exactly their objective. Their objective is to basically rip this place apart. It's like the Chinese Cultural Revolution. That whole purpose of that was to get rid of Chinese culture so that people would have an allegiance to communism rather than to China and its history and its values. So this is part of their plan.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Oh, well, the phone lines are ringing off the hook. We have Ken in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the home state of the great Senator John Fetterman. Ken in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Hello.
Oh, I thought John Fetterman called up. I was wondering how he was going to communicate.
Hey, yeah, I was just calling in because I wanted to talk to, I wanted to get Rudy's thoughts on, I seen Ty Cobb on CNN.
Yeah, bitter man. Ty is a very bitter man because Trump fired him. And I'm not going to go into the advice that he gave or didn't give and the things that he did right and wrong. But the reality is you should not be attacking a former client the way he is. That really is.
Yeah.
If it isn't unethical, it's very close to it for a lawyer to do. I find lawyers who attack their clients, unless they're accused of a crime or something. But the president has never accused him of a crime or doesn't say much about him at all.
Unless they're hello.
Yeah,
Ken.
I'm here. I'm with you.
Okay. Yeah, I hear. Yeah, and when I heard that, I just couldn't. But it felt to me like he was like trying to give them ways to go after them. I was like, I can't even believe how he's doing that.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is really. When
I heard that, a prior lawyer for him. I don't ever understand.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, I'd have to listen to it more carefully. Then now we're starting to talk about things that you should be disbarred for.
Lawyer. Right? Yeah.
I mean, I don't. I just don't get it. I don't get how these people feel that the rules are different where it comes to Trump.
Yeah. Yeah, but another thing, I just wanted to thank you for I watched all you fighting with all the witnesses and all. I just want to call in and say thank you.
Thank you.
I've been following it since day one.
Well, thank you.
Stick with us, Ken.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Have a great night.
I do want to mention the fact that Jim Brown passed away yesterday, I believe, and Jim Brown was at one time clearly the greatest running back in the history of the NFL. And with some of the others like Gale Sayers and that came along, certainly in the discussion as one of the greatest running backs in NFL history. He won an NFL championship when that was all there was, an NFL championship. And he 8 out of 9 years, he led the league in rushing. By the time he retired, he had the record for the most rushing yards. That's since been broken. I think Emmitt Smith has that now. He was in 2002, he was the Sporting News greatest professional football player ever. He played at Syracuse University for the Orange Man football team when Orange Men met Syracuse, not Donald Trump. And he had he's in the Football Hall of Fame, the Professional Hall of Fame. and he wore the number 44, like Reggie Jackson. And he was also one of the greatest lacrosse players of all time. So I don't know. What an athlete. Now, he had a controversial career. He spoke out very strongly on civil rights, always, it seemed to me, in a respectful and positive way. But I mean, at the time, it was a lot different than speaking out on it now. He did have a number of allegations of mistreatment of women that came up over the years. I don't know really how they were resolved, but he devoted his latter years to helping young people. He set up programs for them. Most of his life was spent with them. And maybe, and I'm going beyond my level of knowledge or expertise. Maybe he was making up for mistakes of his youth. I don't know, but he certainly did an awful lot of work for kids, to try to help kids. He also was quite an accomplished movie actor. I think he was in over 20 or 25 films, including one about him, Jim Brown All-American, which was done by Spike Lee. He was in Riot. He was in Ice Station Zebra. I mean, he was in many films. He was very active in civil rights, as I've told you, at a time when it was not, and there were assault allegations that were made against him throughout the years. He was found not guilty in one. I don't know if he was ever found guilty. Yeah, I guess there was one involving his wife where he did domestic, where he had to do community service. And Brown had this quote: "There's no excuse for violence. There is never a justification for anyone to impose themselves on someone else. And it will always be incorrect when it comes to a man and a woman, regardless of what might have happened. You need to be man enough to take the blow. That is always the best way. Do not put your hands on a woman." So I don't know what the reality of that is. All I can tell you is, after that period of his life, he seemed to devote, he didn't do as many movies, and he seemed to devote himself to helping children, young people, mostly, black youngsters, but in general. And then I guess another thing that made him controversial in his latter years, he supported Donald Trump for president, which would be consistent with his being a man on his own, a man who made his own decisions, a man who never got pushed around. He'd be someone who could see through the manipulation of the Democrat Party quite effectively.
And wow, Mayor, that Jim Brown, of course, is thought of as one of the greatest ever to do it. Where does he rank in your book when it comes
to that? I mean, I remember him. I was a Giant fan, of course, all my life, and I remember him. I also remember I also remember Sam Huff, the linebacker of the New York Giants, was one of the few players that could occasionally stop him. Almost nobody could. But then we would beat the Browns and go on to the championship against the Green Bay Packers, and Jim Taylor, who was not as good a running back as Jim Brown, was much tougher on Sam Huff. It was the strangest thing where if Sam Huff had played as effectively against Jim Taylor as he did against Jim Brown, the Giants probably won one or two of those championships. But such is the way of sports. There are sometimes that one person is greater than the other, but the way their talents and lack of talents work, it's like boxers. Sometimes one boxer can beat another, even though the other boxer has a better career and is a better boxer. And Huff certainly didn't contain him. Huff would occasionally keep him down to the maybe low 100s, or remember one time he kept him below 100 yards, and that was an achievement. If you can keep Brown below 100 yards, but particularly because they counted on him a lot. He was very much a lot. He was a great deal of their offense, more so than a running back would be of anybody's offense today. strong, and he would punish you when he hit you. Tackling him was was no fun. And the same thing with Jim Taylor. They knew how to be aggressive when they were taken down, and they would virtually they could injure people.
Well, Mayor, I think one thing we should highlight tonight and share with our audience is the fact that our friend, Mr. Elon Musk over at Twitter, has activated the subscription option for Mayor Rudy Giuliani. And what that means is you can head over to Twitter, and I'm writing this on the screen as I say it. So head on over to Twitter and quickly hit that subscribe button. And
so what does tell me what it means?
And so what this will mean, folks, is that and sorry, I'm multitasking here, putting it up on the screen while I talk about it. You can help support the mayor and our efforts to bring you the best, the content that others will not give you each and every night from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern. Those of you that have been with us now, some of you since October, many of you we picked up along the way. This is something we started right here. The mayor just wanted to start talking and get the truth out there, because so many in the legacy news and media industry refuse to cover the truth. They refuse to cover what's happening. And it's not even a partisan issue. This isn't about Republican or Democrat. There are big issues that Mayor Giuliani, a man who has dedicated his entire adult life to serving this country and protecting our way of life through his work as the greatest prosecutor in American history, through his time as mayor, the best mayor we've ever seen. Don't take that from me. President Trump himself feels the same way. We have the greatest mayor, the best prosecutor, someone who's dedicated his life and continues to each and every day. So if you can, head on, and if you are on Twitter, head on over there. Check out the subscription option. It's a small price to pay. And my pitch to you, it's not about, the cool content you're going to get, behind the scenes. Yes, you're going to get that. You're going to get that. But my pitch to you is just the importance of what the mayor is doing. And he is one of only a few, think about his life experience, his willingness to fight, the size of his platform. I'm asking you to support not just the mayor, but support our fight, the shared fight. And it's not partisan. It's simply a fight to get the truth out there and ensure not just the American people, but folks from around the world have access to what's happening and have a place to go where they can share what they're hearing, what they know, and hear from the mayor as we continue this fight to protect our way of life, fight against censorship, and carry forward the ideals that made this country great.
Well, that was really terrific. That was really great. I have to say, thank you.
Well, let's see how many subscribers it picks up.
Have a hard time believing it's me. So
it's all true, Mayor. Look.
So why don't you take your time now and go subscribe, or it might be useful to make that call to Kirk Elliott, PhD, and get some advice on your budget and your situation, or, like I always urge, to help our friend and get some MyPillows. Go to mypillows.com/Rudy and get yourself some of the new sheets, some of the new pillows. Get yourself some of the new robes, some of the newest slippers. There's so many different things you can get from them, and it's all high quality, and it's all very, very good price, and it all goes to a good cause, which is a lot of that money is spent supporting our causes, and that's why we got to all stick together. That's why, and also any of the money that you spend with us is also used to support our causes. That's what we're dedicated to. We're dedicated to getting that done. I guess the debt situation is a dance that we go through over and over again. I wonder what the meetings are like with Biden. It seems to me like he couldn't keep a straight conversation for too long. I mean, look, he almost fell again. Told somebody to shush. I mean, and he's working on this debt thing, which is pretty complex. Well, we're into soccer time, Ted.
We are in soccer time.
Do we have a few messages?
We are getting a few messages.
So you want to look at a message? You want to take a call?
Let's bring them on. Here are some messages. I'll populate the screen here. Right there. Okay.
There's an interesting little thing here. Want to go back?
Where to?
This is from Kenny Adams. When did you go rogue when Trump came along? That is probably most people's biggest question. Either Trump is the best president we've ever had in a long time, or you made the biggest moon your stellar career.
Hard to really.
I don't know exactly what that means. I guess biggest mistake of your stellar career.
But he seems to be wording it weird.
Well, I do believe he was one of the best presidents. I think his accomplishments in the 4 years that he was there were comparable to my hero, Ronald Reagan. And he left the country in remarkably good shape, right? Our economy he put the economy back together again after the pandemic, only for a short time. But it was back together again. We had peace. We didn't have war in Europe like we have now. We didn't have all those people dead in Afghanistan. We still had the Bagram Air Base 400 miles from China. God forbid if we're ever attacked, we're going to curse Joe Biden for giving it away. A lot of people in Ukraine would be alive today if Trump had lived, because that Putin would not have invaded Afghanistan would not have invaded Ukraine if Trump were president. But here, with the example of Afghanistan, that's the first thing. There's no question that he was going to take advantage of the coward in the White House, and China owns him. I mean, just today today or the day before, he said he thinks there's going to be a thawing of the relationship with China. Now, what does he base that on? The same thing when he told us that China really is an enemy? I mean, I don't know that this man has any credibility at all talking about China. He's gotten 31 million, his family and him, they got 31 million, and his son tells us he got 50% of that. And we're going to trust him? Well, you trust him. I don't.
That's right, Mayor. The chat room is full. We're getting a lot of messages. We're asking people to join us as moderators because our chat room's growing on some nights.
How is Trump going to win with all the election fraud? Nothing has changed with preventing the fraud. That is a very good question, Chris. And that report by Durham didn't help anything by not holding anybody accountable. That's the only way you're going to stop this, by putting these bums in prison. But I mean, he's going to have to put together, Trump, quite a voter integrity effort. And we have some plans for that. Or I have some ideas about that. And I've done it once before successfully. So I'm not telling you it's going to be easy, and I'm not going to tell you that I got much hope that they're not going to try it again, because, again, nobody has been held accountable. And they've done a pretty good job of, frightening everyone and not talking about what happened in the last election. I mean, look at what Fox is doing now, terrorizing people over that. And that's all done for a purpose. It's done so they can have the atmosphere so they can do it again. Either, cover things up the way they did with the hard drive, or worse, even if it is worse. I don't know. I don't know which is worse, fixing votes or depriving the American people of the most critical information that they would need to make a choice, particularly about the criminal background of a presidential candidate. I mean, that man committed out and out crimes, all demonstrable from the hard drive. Well, anything else, Ted, that's crucial? Otherwise, we'll let everybody get some rest and get ready for us tomorrow.
I think we're good for tonight. Of course, a busy day tomorrow, a busy week as the 2024 election heats up. Mayor, any final thoughts here as we close out and get ready for what will be a busy Tuesday?
My thoughts are that slowly but surely, in the way that and in the way you have to get it out when you live in a bit of a fascist state and there's censorship, we're getting the message out. I see that I don't know if it's 63 or 67% of the American people believe that Biden is a non-compass menace. Basically, it does not have the mental acuity to be president of the United States, and about an equal number the physical health to be president of the United States. Now, that's hidden pretty well by his family, by the crooked politicians and un-American politicians around him. And the major networks will never cover his infirmities, which are so obvious that they make the newspapers all over Europe and big time in Australia, by the way, and therefore makes a fool out of us as a country. But I think that's starting to get through now. When you get up into the 60% of the American people believe that he's incapable of carrying out the duties of president. I think the Hunter Biden thing has slowed down a bit. Who's to say it isn't caused by the counter news they put out? Of course, they have the press on their side, but I don't think it can slow down completely because there's so much there, and I know there's so much more to come out about Joe's deep involvement in this. I mean, don't make the mistake that this is an investigation of Hunter. This is an investigation of Joe Biden for selling out America. And the proof is there that he did. So you stay with us and we'll make sure you get the truth, because it isn't easy nowadays. You go to rudygiulianics.com for my podcast. You go to WABCradio.com and get the app, and you can listen to me between 3 and 4 every afternoon and call in. Sundays between 10 and 11, Uncovering the Truth with Dr. Maria. And then every night now, here on whatever you listen to me on, and if it's Getter, if it's Twitter, and so forth, at 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And again, you can call in. And we keep improving our technology, our service. We're going to continue to do that. Pretty soon, we're going to see if we can put you on a little TV when you call in. If you want to, we'll try to see if we can do it with Zoom or something. Okay, we can do that. And we got some specials in mind, which I'll talk to you about during the week. Well, thank you very, very much. God bless America. Our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776. One of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve It's because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common sense.